politics, the 2022 President-elect William Ruto's promise to Kenyans to lower the high cost of living within the first 100 days of his presidency is what many Kenyans are looking forward to should the Supreme Court uphold his win. In the event that he is sworn in as Kenya's fifth president, Ruto will have to deliver the pledges he made on the campaign trail to lower the high cost of living, pump 50 billion shillings hustler fund to small businesses, and to ease the general business environment. Edwin John Mukora reports on the possibility of realizing these promises.
With the Deputy President William Ruto promising to reduce the high cost of living within the first 100 days of his inauguration, economic experts now say it will be impractical for the president-elect to achieve this, as he has to navigate his way through a ballooning public debt that currently stands at 8.6 trillion and an economic still ailing from the shocks of the pandemic.
As I was saying, if everything is held constant and he becomes the president, in his first 100 days he has promised that he's going to pump 50 billion, I think, to young people. He's going to pump 20 billion to women. He's thrown figures around. What I've always said is that these figures are not practical, coming at the backdrop of our debt and coming at the backdrop of our budget, because the budget has already been passed, and so unless he passes a supplementary budget, I don't see how he's going to achieve and attain the things that he promised to do in the first 100 days. So in the first 100 days, anyone who is going to be appointed to be president is going to operate under the auspices of the budget that has already been passed. And so it is going to be impractical for them to apportion billions of money to places that have not been envisaged by the CS Treasury when he was passing the budget.
Analysts now argue that for the 50 billion hustler fund to work, Ruto first has to stabilize the macroeconomic environment to enable the small businesses to prosper. Impossible at the moment, saying the government has to stabilize the economy.
So in my view, I don't see how he's going to be able to, and they've said they want to dwell on domestic borrowing insofar as dealing with the debt issue is concerned and going to the banks. I think it beats logic to go to the domestic borrowing as the Uhuru's regime has done, which Ruto has been part of it. They've been going to the domestic borrowing at the same time injuring the SMEs. And so you cannot be saying your policy is bottom up, empowering the SMEs. Yet, if you're going to go to the domestic borrowings, you're going to crowd out the SMEs from borrowing. So then you're not empowering them, as you're saying that you're going to empower them.
Okay, so it's saying one or another.
He's allowed to give 50 billion to anyone. I mean, this government has told us that 2 billion is lost every day to corruption. So he's allowed to give 50 billion to anyone. What we're asking is the practicability of giving 50 billion to a group of people. And beyond the practicability, where are you getting this 50 billion from? As far as you're concerned, the economy has really shrinked. We are just trying to recover from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are yet to recover fully. There are other aspects, the other sectors of this economy that are there to pick up completely. So how are you telling us that you're going to take 50 billion to give to establish a hustler fund, and then it's going to be a credit facilities that people are going to draw from? First, you have to have practicability insofar as that is concerned, because you have to establish systems in place, put systems in place, show us how this 50 billion is not going to be wasted to corruption. In the current setting of Kenya, it is not practical. Remember, the biggest problem that the SMEs face is access to credit facilities and a lot of licensing, that they have to pay a lot of licenses, and then they cannot access credit because the credit facilities that are available at the banks, they've been taken up by the government, because the government then resorted, the government of Uhuru Kenyatta resorted to go to domestic borrowing, and they went to concessional loans, treasury bonds, they went to the banks. And so it was hard for the banks to actually lend to the SMEs. So I'm saying these things cannot exist together. At one hand, you cannot deny someone who relies on that as a source of income, and then at the other end, you're saying you want to empower the other people. It doesn't make sense. You're not going to go for loans that are supposed to be getting to the SMEs. You're not going to go to banks, ask for 50 billion from the banks, and then you use that 50 billion to give the SMEs. That beats logic.
For a man who is just a step away from the apex seat in the country, raiding on empowering small businesses, experts argue that his magic bullet in making this a reality will be through extension of long-term credits to the small businesses in the country, as well as reducing the cost of doing businesses. How easy he is going to achieve these in a sector that has proven a challenge the former government to formalize will be one to watch.
As you've heard from the experts, Kenyans have to brace themselves for tougher economic times since the promises made by the incoming government in their manifesto seems to be impractical to deal with in the first 100 days. Edwin John Mokora, Look Up Business.